The SANDF is under fire for the state of the Navy. The country's vessels are undergoing expensive refurbishments. We are joined in studio by military and defense expert Ricardo Teixeira to unpack this for us. A very good evening, Ricardo. Again, the SANDF under the spotlight, and not for good reasons. How would you succinctly describe the state of our defense as a country, as it stands?
Well, for the past few years, people have been warning that SANDF was on the brink of collapse, but it's very clear that the current state is evident that, in fact, that it has collapsed. I mean, we've seen the worst military defeat in SANDF's history, in South African Army history as well. And we've got about 16 out of 198 aircraft that are operable at any given time. The Navy's got one frigate that's semi-operable, one's undergoing a refit, two are awaiting refits, but there's no funds. And about a week ago, in the Joint Standing Committee on Defence hearing, the committee was informed that SANDF is operating at a budgetary shortfall of 41 billion rand. So it is, in my opinion, the lowest point it's ever been.
And I guess there is no point where it can be acceptable for it to be low, but taking a look at what's going on globally, we're seeing what's going on in the Middle East. Yes, right now, between Rwanda and Congo, there seems to be some sort of agreement in sight. But generally speaking, there seems to be more war talk that's going on in this day and age than, say, maybe 20 years ago. Is this the time for South Africa's military to be slacking in terms of budgets? I mean, this year's budget, only 0.7% of our gross domestic product was actually allocated for military and state security.
Yeah, this is not the time for it to be slacking, as you say. This is not the time for the issues we're facing. I mean, there's a famous quote by Donald Rumsfeld that you don't go to war with the army you want, you go to war with the army you have, and we don't have much at the moment.
And not only do we not have much in terms of personnel, you were also mentioning submarines, frigates, as we don't have much in terms of cargo equipment as well.
So, yeah, the big issue is our magazine depth, the ammunition and supplies that they would need to sustain themselves. For example, when the war in Ukraine broke out, Germany's magazine depth would have only lasted them 2 days. Now, I don't know how long SANDF's is. I don't think they have a full picture of how long it would last, because it's been a while since they placed any large ammunition orders. The multiple launch rocket systems, developed at the Battaliers, that ammunition was last acquired in 1994. Rheinmetall Denel has gone as far as offering to refurbish old stockpiles because the army is just not buying anything new. We don't know how much artillery ammunition there is. There's a severe lack of and shortfall of critical munitions for the Gripen. I don't think they have enough missiles to equip the full 12 jets for more than one sortie each.
Why do you think that's the case? Do you think that there just isn't that big of a fear that South Africa, a country like South Africa, would go to war or perhaps even be invaded? But also considering that most countries, more NATO countries and first world countries, are pumping more into their military budget right now and saying more than ever we need to be more combat ready as countries.
Well, we no longer live in a peaceful world. The post-Cold War peace dividend is clearly over. We are on the precipice of the largest arms build-up since World War II, and we've got conflict across 3 regions. We've got North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. There's a potential of conflict occurring in the Pacific with China and Taiwan. We've just seen a short conflict between India and Pakistan. We no longer live in a peaceful world, and that idea that diplomacy is going to solve everything is clearly out of the window now. As for why our defence force is the way it is, there's the matter of fact, and there's just no other way to say it, it's the result of 30 years of ANC policy. They had other priorities, and defence wasn't one of them.
But of course, other priorities are very dire. Our healthcare system, education, infrastructure, these are all things that our government needs to pay into consideration, that they need to budget for as well. So when you're looking at an ailing hospital or pumping more money into a military when there doesn't seem to be a direct threat, do you understand then the balance there?
Yes. I mean, of course, there are other priorities and they are definitely justified. But at the end of the day, your defence force is your insurance policy. It's the bill no one wants to pay, but you know, when you need it, you need to know that it's there because you've paid the bills. But if you've neglected them, you know, you can't build an army in a day. It's going to take a decade to turn things around as they currently stand, minimum. And if anything happens, we are completely undefended.
It's like insurance, actually.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need it until you need it. Taking a look at the talks between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, I think also with having our troops there, it also highlighted some of the failures of the SANDF and also posed a question as to what are our troops doing there in the first place. Right now, it seems that there is an apparent or seeming end in sight with a peace brokering deal taking place in the United States. What's your reaction to that?
Look, there have been a lot of processes in that region. Conflict has been going on there for well over 30 years. SANDF has been there since the late 90s. I'm hesitant to say that peace has been achieved like the Chief of the Defence Force and the Minister of Defence have, because it clearly has not been achieved. I find it intriguing that Rwanda says they will not withdraw their troops from the region when they've also not openly said that they have troops in the region to begin with. Quite a bit of a contradiction there. I think it's too soon to tell if this is going to be a lasting peace. I don't think it will be, but it's definitely something to watch. But I would also caution our fellow citizens to keep their eyes on the conflict that's happening in northern Mozambique with the insurgency there. It's a lot closer to home, and it's a lot more of a risk for us.
And that's also been kind of encroaching closer and closer to us as well. Just in closing, Ricardo, should South Africans be wary when we're looking at the climate we find ourselves in? You know, you were talking about, you know, it's not a peaceful world where we can resolve things diplomatically as was the case a couple of years ago. Things are shifting, things are moving as well. Is there a threat? Is there a real threat to South Africa?
There's no direct threat to South Africa, but the scenario of a global war conflict is going to leave very few countries untouched. Considering the shipping routes that run along our coast is one of the most vital, and the activities and the scenarios that played out there during World War II. Our weakness is our inability to secure our shipping routes, and we are highly dependent on international maritime trade. And you know, as one of my mentors always says, every country has a military on its territory, either its own or someone else's, and we need to decide if you know, if we need to have our own to defend us, or if we are just going to let everybody come around our coast, illegally fish in our waters, and infiltrate our exclusive economic zone, and not going to do anything about it. And I think we need to take a good hard look in the mirror and decide, you know, what is it that we really need to be doing here? Because unfortunately, the government doesn't seem to have a plan. This week in the Portfolio Committee for Defence and Military Veterans, the so-called Journey to Greatness, the document that's meant to guide SANDF to 2060, the Minister of Defence revealed that it's not actually a document so much as a kind of a discussion process. So it doesn't even exist on paper, really, at this point, and there just seems to be a complete lack of a plan.
Shocking and scary indeed, but Ricardo, really appreciate you coming into studio and just sharing these insights with us as well.